Peace, family. We back at you today. Oh, hold on, damn. Do that. Yeah, we what's going on, everybody? I had to play some of that old school Cooley D. I mean, I said Cooley D. Schoolie D. Take it back to '85 on y'all. The actual first gangster rapper, come out of Philly. I had to play some of that old school Parkside 5-2. Yeah. Today we're doing another 2 day series. We're gonna be talking about the European Black nobility. This series came up out of with talks of the coronavirus. Me and brother Marvin, we had started to do a series. What's up, Will of the Most High, BK Express, Voice of Reason for my people, and Del Joseph. We started Tony Davis, my brother, as always. We talked about the things that the government was doing, and we laid out stuff that the government wasn't telling you guys from the beginning. With the government allowing colleges to science labs, level 4 science labs to recreate deadly viruses, but they wasn't telling you what was happening. We went into who was funding them behind the scenes. Then we went into the global population eating, and we talked about the Rockefellers and how they funded both sides, and the Harrimans and all these different groups, the Mellons and the Fords, and we talked about George Merck, and we talked about them creating biological weapons. So we're coming up, and we showed you guys these different things. Then we went into we did a stream and we talked about the Rockefellers' bosses. So now what we're doing is we're going to get into the Black nobility, and we're going to talk about these families and why they're worshipped and followed in Europe, and how they came into power, and how they used Christianity and Judaism and all these different things in order to stay in power by conditioning the people that they are descendants of Christ. And I mean, this thing gets wicked and more wicked the further you dig. Now, you don't have to take everything that we say as truth or face value. We're just here to make you think. We're here to give you the information. You go look it up for yourself. You get a chance to see who funds the Oppenheimer family, who are the Rothschilds, who was Nathan Rothschild, what was Nathan Rothschild's beliefs, who controls the international banking system. We want to talk about all these things. So as we do a lot of reading, some of it may be boring because we like to do it in the classroom setting for those who have an ear to hear. So a lot of times we're not going to have 500 or 600 and 1,000 people watching, because we're actually teaching in the classroom setting for people that's nerds like us that like to get the information and talk about it, and then put the pieces of the puzzle together. So that you guys can go from the beginning of 3 weeks ago when we first started talking about the coronavirus. When I said that the video we put out, the coronavirus will lead to human gene editing, or the coronavirus will lead to gene editing in human bodies. We did that first video. Then we went into we went into the Committee 300. We went into the Great Conspiracy hidden in plain sight 1 and 2. We went into the Great Awakening. We talked about a whole host of things. We talked about Bill Gates, GMO foods, and vaccinations. And now you get a chance to see where these people come from, who funds them, and what they are. You're going to find out what they are a part of, because we did the 300 committee. So now we're going into the Council of 13, the bloodline families, and where this power comes from. So without any other shenanigans, I'll bring the other brothers on. Brother Marvin, you want to say something before we start?
Hey, good morning, everybody. Just want to say I hope y'all are having I hope y'all families and everything are doing good with the whole quarantine measures and thing going on. I see that there's a lot of chat and talk about staying home versus being able to go out, and I just want to make sure I let it be known that when they talk about social distancing, they are not talking about not being able to go outside and get fresh air and sunlight. They are talking about the distance between one person and another, because for some reason people are creating arguments about you need to stay at home. The purpose is not to stay at home. If you guys stay in your house too long, your immune system starts to get weaker. So let's Understand you need fresh air and some sunlight, but keep your distance from people. That's the entire plan. But with that being said, good morning, everybody, and salute to the panelists, and let's get it popping.
Brother Richie, what you want to say about your people over there in Europe, man? They said you the Black Pope. They said you the Black Pope, man. You lead all this stuff, Brother Richie. What do you have to say about that, Black Guys TV?
You're funny. You're comedic. Good morning to everyone on the show. Big up for joining us. Yeah, me, get your pens and paper ready. Certain research points will be coming. Yeah, and then we're going to talk about what George did last night as well on Sunday TV.
So am I, my brother.
Peace. What's going on, family? Shout out to the panelists, Marvin Black Eyes, and of course George Macon. And I'm looking forward to building with the brothers.
So, hey, Irene, we got Water Sniper, and remember, as we share the screen and Brother Marv begins to read the article, just know that these people commandeer Christianity, Judaism, and they use religion as the backdrop for why they do the things that they do. And this is going to be a 2-day read session because it's very long, and we're going to lay out in the beginning. It goes all the way back to like 200 BC. They talk about the Carthaginians and who married into who, and it leads all the way up into the Queen, where it shows you where their power come from. So I'm gonna share the screen. Hopefully I don't get knocked out the first time. I'm gonna share the screen and then we go from there. Let's see. Hopefully it lets me. Let's see what happens. Let's see if it shares. Hold on a second. Did it do it? Can y'all see the screen yet? Hold on. What the hell? Okay. Yeah, can y'all see? Did it share, y'all? Oh, shit. Rich.
It says not our friends on the screen is what I see.
Yeah, I can see it.
Oh, cool. Okay, we in. Well, we in.
Mm-hmm. I was actually talking that whole time and forgot I was on mute.
All right. So you got it. You got it, Marvin. You back on mute?
I'm muting myself again. Yes, I have it.
All right. Well, it's on you.
All right, so this is the European Black Nobility, the beginning of the Satanic elite bloodlines. And here's our timeline period that they got marked up here, but pre-flood, 3,500 to 3,000 BFC, Assyrians, Egyptians, Babylonians, Persians, Greeks, Romans, and all the way to the Illuminati bloodlines. The enemies of humanity, not our friends. They got a little picture here. You can scroll down to that picture, George.
Yeah, I'm trying my computer acting. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So we're starting with the paragraph, House of the Gulf, if that's how you pronounce it, right? Guelph.
Yeah.
The House of Guelphs are one of the original Black nobility families from Venice, which the House of Windsor and thus the President Queen Elizabeth J of England descends. The Guelphs are intertwined with the German aristocracy. The Guelphs are the House of Hanover. Almost all European royal house originates from the House of Hanover, thus from the House of Guelph, the European Black nobility. And they got a picture of the pyramid here.
The picture. This picture of the pyramid shows the people. As here, you can see at the bottom. These are the people on the ground, the sheep, and then you have military, police, governments, corporations, central banks, tax revenue. It goes all the way up. Think tanks, Committee 300, Council of 13, World Monarch. So it goes all the way up, and it goes all the way up within the European mobility. Oh, of who's controlling what. So go ahead, bro.
The black nobility of Europe is made up of the following royal bloodlines: the House of Gulf, or Great Britain, the House of Wettin, or Belgium, the House of Bernadotte, or Sweden, the House of Liechtenstein, aka Liechtenstein, House of Oldenburg in Denmark, the House of Holzern in Germany, or Hohenzollern in Germany, House of Hanover in Germany, the House of Bourbon in France, House of Orange in the Netherlands, the House of Grimaldi in Monaco, the House of Wittelsbach in Germany, the House of Braganza in Portugal, the House of Nassau in Luxembourg, the House of Habsburg in Austria, the House of Savoy in Italy, the House of Karađorđević in Yugoslavia, and the House of Württemberg in Germany, and finally the House of Zogo in Albania.
See, I wouldn't
Looked like Germany got
got
rocked out.
I probably wouldn't have got none of those words right.
I got as close as I can. I do when I do photography, I do have in colleges I have to write a lot of people's names, so I do get a little bit, but I'm still not perfect. By all means, not perfect at majority of these names.
All right, I'm gonna let you read this paragraph, and then I'm gonna explain to the people why we're doing this again, because this is a good opening. This is a good opening. So yeah, you go ahead.
This is the big picture of true world power system as of the present. The listing of the Royal House of Europe and the bloodline families trace their genealogies to the Merovingians, who in turn trace their genealogies to the bogus Gnostic teaching that Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene were married and had 2 children, a boy and a girl named Jesus II and Tamar. From all of this, we get the so-called divine right of kings, a fabrication for the blue bloods of royalty. All of this, a gross fabrication to justify power, wealth, privilege, and the status to remain within the hands of the royals.
So this is when you see these houses. Oh, remember how they used to tell you that like all the people are related, the presidents and all these people are related out of these houses? Well, when you see these houses, these people all say that they're linked to these Merovingians, who in turn trace their genealogy back to the Gnostic teachings of Christ. So they believe that they have a divine right to be over you. This is why when they had the PayPal wars, and they went around the world destroying everybody and made you accept Christ. This was their reasoning for doing it. They believe that they teach. Well, they don't believe because they know it's fabricated, it's made up. But they teach that they are the direct descendants of Christ. So go ahead, brother.
These people earned the title of black nobility from their ruthless lack of scruple. They employed murder, rape, kidnapping, assassination, robbery, and all manner of deceit on the grand scale, brooking no opposition to attaining their objectives. These all have immense wealth, and money is power. The most powerful of the black nobility families are located in Italy, Germany, Switzerland, Britain, Holland, and Greece in that order. Their roots may be traced back to the Venetian oligarchs, who are of the Khazar extraction and married into the royal houses in the early part of the 12th century. Following a great Khazar victory over the Arabs, the future Emperor Constantine V married a Khazar princess, and their son became Emperor Leo IV, also known as Leo the Khazar. The Medici popes, Pius VII, Eugenio Pacelli, and John Paul II were Khazars. Not all black nobility are royal houses, and many of the royal families no longer have kingdoms. According to researcher and author Dr. John Coleman, a committee of 300 was established early in the 18th century, although it did not take on its present form until around 1897, when the China opium trade was legislated.
And remember, we did
legalized. Sorry.
And remember, we did the video on the Committee of 300, explaining to you guys what the Committee of 300 is, and that's going to be revisited. And remember, y'all heard the word Khazars, and it's going to explain to you who the Khazars are. And a lot of you guys hear this term Khazars of being the ones who rule Israel, and they say that they're Israelis, and they don't believe in the coming of Christ. But these people under these popes and Pauls, they believe in Christ. So how could they be Khazars? So Lamont, what's your opinion on that as we go forward? You there, Lamont?
Maybe it's back to Kellogg's today.
Hold on. Let me make sure because I can't see nobody. that he didn't fall off. You there, Richie?
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm making sure. Yeah, did you hear my question?
I was drinking my milk that was.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, well, the reason I'm saying, because the popes
You
believe,
caught me in the middle of drinking my milk that was, flavored with the Kellogg's.
yeah, because the popes is crazy. The popes believe in Christ, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, as what it said in the beginning of the article, it was saying like it's all based off this fabrication that they're the descendants of the Christ, and so they falsify history to justify their rulership. So
And
that's what you're kind of seeing.
before I ask this though, real quick, so not to cut you off. When they say that John Paul II was a Khazar, and we know the Khazars they say are now the Jews rule in Jerusalem. How can he be a Khazar when he's a believer in Christ and then wants to rule in Jerusalem, profess to not believe in Christ? But this is the fuckery.
Right. So yeah, that's what the Jew does though. Remember when even when you look at in all areas, that's just in the religion. Remember in the banking, the Rothschilds went to England, they went to France, they went to Germany, but their origins, they are actually like Jews that just went into these different areas and changed their name. They have a history of like changing their names to wherever they were at and assimilating themselves into that particular society to for their control. So it's a good secret society. It's a secret society that was controlling the Catholic Church in the 80s called the P2 Propaganda Do. And that led to, I think it was the assassination of one of the Pope. I think it was Pope John Paul I. And I think they assassinated him. So they have ways of manipulating and controlling, So yeah, that wouldn't be like something that's far-fetched for a Jew to be, in the seat of power, even in the religion. Because really, that united religion thing that they are talking, one world religion, is going to be controlled by the Pope.
Yes. Yep.
When they put out certain edicts, they apply it to like all the religions, even Islam.
Yeah, but
when they pass like a certain edict, I think it was
did that in the 300.
Something about like purgatory is no longer exist or something like that. And he was telling not just Catholics, he was telling like everybody that. like how you. But anyway, it's a fabricated history to justify their military occupation and political power over the people. Because remember, religion actually was the politics of that day, and so that's how it was established.
Okay, all right, go ahead, Mark.
All right. Documentary proof as to the existence of the Committee of 300 is not forthcoming, and it may be no more than a convenient phrase to describe certain key players. Socialist politician and financial advisor to the Rothschilds, Walter Rathnow, writing in the Wiener Press.
Write that name down, Walter Rathnow. Well, I'm sorry.
24th December 1921 said, only 300 men, each of whom knows all the others, govern the fate of Europe. They select their successors from their own entourage. These men have the means in their hands of putting an end to the form of state which they find unreasonable. Exactly 6 months after publication, Rathnow was assassinated. Dr. Coleman's work opens the door to further studies on named members of the ruling elite, particularly in America. Whereas the English have a long history and are very aware of their ancestry, certain families of blue bloods in the United States that have historic ties with the British through blood and money. These noble families are behind most, if not all, of the so-called pro-environmental movements that are actually intended to curb the population growth of all nations. Prince Philip and Prince Charles are the most visible symbols of this movement and are a true part of this conspiracy to destroy industry and take the world back to the Dark Age. Most, if not all, of the crowned and uncrowned heads of the dynasties enjoy huge incomes from ground rents. All favor Global 2000 report to the president that's calculated to end all the industrial progress, and by famine, disease, and wars, eliminate the excess population industry supports. All oppose nuclear power that can produce clean, cheap electricity, the key to economic development and prosperity in the third world. They ardently desire to return to the feudal system where they will once again be absolute rulers.
Now, hold on, real quick. What that's saying is when it says they all oppose nuclear power that can produce clean, cheap electricity to the key to economic development and prosperity in third world. Well, that's because how they reign power, because Europe doesn't have, it's not rich in mineral resources as the countries that they extracted them from. So they have to keep those countries poor, dilapidated, and down where they can't develop themselves. That's how they stay in power. They can never be for the development of third world countries, because any country they call third world, when you look into the country, they're rich in something that these European countries need. That's why British invaded all the way from Asia to India to Africa, because these places are rich in resources and they keep these countries under the foot. So go ahead, brother.
While professing Christianity, the oligarchical families, for the greater part, actually despised it in secret. Masonry provides their religious fulfillment, and without faith, they have no belief in reward or punishment and a world to come. They live for the here and now. Many of these oligarchs are in the drug and arms trade through well-distanced intermediaries, like so many of the large banks. In 1815, the Jesuits of their Freemason allies among the crowned heads of Europe held the Congression of Vienna, whereby Swiss neutrality, already sanctioned by the Peace of Westphalia in 1648, was forever granted. And no matter how many wars are provoked in which the common man has to do the fighting, the money of the nobility in Switzerland should always be free from plunder. That's why they always talk about them Swiss bank accounts. It's part of Rothschild's meticulous long-range planning and why Switzerland exists to this day. But that doesn't mean to say your money would be safe. Some 280 billion PA in flight capital and drug money flows in the Swiss accounts of the black nobility. The place of Freemasonry in the power structure of the elites is quite evident as they carry through Adam Weishaupt's conspiracy to avenge the Jesuits after the abolition in 1773 by short-lived Pope Clement the 14th as immortal and a menace to the church and the faith. By launching the French Revolution and directing Napoleon's conquest of Catholic Europe, and by revolts against the church in Mexico and Latin America, they cut off Vatican income.
Yeah, real quick.
Nathan,
real quick.
Yep.
Now, it should have been something, that rung in your head when you heard the famine, disease, and the war, because that goes back once again around Robert Malthus. And what they said, that they don't actually even believe in the religion that they're professing. And that's another thing that you should be cognizant of, because it was based off of a lie. Like they kind of created their own history, now claiming descendants to that falsified history. So they don't believe that. They're making you believe that, they're descendants of Christ. So and which is a form of soteriology. You believe in something outside of yourself for salvation, and that's what it said in the article. They're for the here and now. Like they don't believe in, they made you believe in this whole idea that something outside of yourself is going to save you. So that's the big conspiracy. And now they claim the descendants of this character that they created, Christ, this Jesus Christ character that they created. Now they claim the descendants of it. So a falsified history is now, everything is falsified because it's based off of a lie. So they got everybody believing, even if you don't believe that they are descendants of Christ, they got you believing in this Jesus Christ character. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so that's what the big conspiracy is. And this is how they establish their hegemony.
Go ahead, Mark.
Nathan Rothschild's financing of Britain resulted in the defeat of Rome's enemy Napoleon, as well as being the source of his wealth and influence. Since Gregory the 16th conferred a papal decoration on Kalman Rothschild for loaning the Vatican £5 million in a period of difficulty, the Rothschilds have been the fiscal agents of the Vatican. With Vatican interests at heart, the Rothschilds extended their financial and political dominion in the United States. The Vatican interest in the U.S. was clearly revealed in the secret 1822 Treaty of Verona between Austria, France, Prussia, and Russia, whereby the Jesuit order pledged itself as the price of reinstatement to destroy the works of Satan. It had established in setting up by revolution representative governments such as the republics and democracies of France and of the USA, replacing them with the only form of government approached by the church, rule by divine right, as declared by the Vatican, Daniel 2:42-43 and Revelation 17:12-13. As Senator Robert Owen pointed out to the United Senate in 1916, the prime target to which the Vatican and the Holy Alliance directed the subversive and destructive activities of the Society of Jesus is the United States and the other republics in the Western Hemisphere. This plot, he claimed, was a target at which the Monroe Doctrine was directed. What the senator did not realize is that the Monroe Doctrine protects the interests of the City of London. The Rothschild Vatican cabals unsuccessfully attempted to gain control over the power of the purse in the purse.
The power of the purse.
My bad. The power of the purse in the U.S. through the First and Second Bank of the United States. They were established under emergency powers granted to the president by the Constitution as temporary institutions to tide the country through the periods of financial stress occasioned by the Revolutionary and 1812 wars. But the aims of the conspirators to establish a banking monopoly were thwarted by the Constitution until the Fed. It is said that the black nobility promised a neutral Germany if Soviet Russia allowed East and West Germany to reunite. And the Russia promised to see that all royal houses are restored to the rightful heirs if they decouple Europe from the American alliance. I'm gonna give y'all some side information about what's happening while I'm reading this, right? In graphic design, which is something that I do a lot, they have something called serifs. And if you've ever written your resume, they tell you to use Times New Roman or Arial. The reason you use Times New Roman is because you know how the letters look like they got feet on them? They got those little hash marks on the edge of the letters. They actually make it so you can read more fluently. This article does not have it. So it's making me see cross-eyed sometimes, which is why I'm reading some of the words a little weird. So keep that in mind if y'all ever decide to, if you're not writing a title or just your logo name, if you're going to write long amounts of text, make sure that the text has the serifs on it or the little feet at the edge of the letters. It makes it easier for people to flow with the writing. That's why that was created. All right. Where was I at? It is said, is that where I'm at? Or am I below that? All right. It is said the black nobility promised a neutral Germany if Soviet Russia allowed East and West Germany to reunite, and that Russia promised to see that all royal houses are restored to the rightful heirs if they decouple Europe from the American alliance. Imperial nobility enjoy a more elevated status than the nobilities of the German successor states and indeed of the Italian states. The descendants of Italian Holy Roman Empire titles have formed an association to which all male line descendants of someone ennobled by imperial patent is entitled to belong. And the Principality of Liechtenstein has also claimed the ability to confirm a succession to imperial titles and has confirmed the right of a Spanish nobleman to heir such a title for purposes of the Spanish law requiring the successor state to confirm that the claimant to a particular title is in fact the heir. Thus, there is a remaining jurisdiction, even though no imperial titles have been conferred since 1806. In 1963, the Holy Roman Empire Associazione dei Nobili del Sacro Romano Impero, not one of my languages, was established to unite male descendants in its membership who are invested with nobility of the Holy Roman Empire. It also includes a number of honorary members. The nobility belongs to the Committee of 300 that controls the United Nations, or the UN Prince.
Real quick. And if you notice, all these things that we're naming now falls under the Committee of 300. And that's when we did the last video when we talked about the Committee of 300 and how they control everything. So all these ruling families that you see when you turn on your TV and they show London, they show Rome and Spain, and they show all these governments and these people all fall under the Committee of 300. So go ahead.
Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands has the power to veto the Vatican's choice of any pope it selects. This may explain. Yeah, that's a big deal.
We got it again. Now, say that name again and tell the people get a pencil and paper out So that way you can write this stuff down and you can see like who the who is who, because people look at the Pope as the most powerful person. And don't they aren't we told that they actually, how does a Pope get in? He has to do a miracle. He has to be a cardinal and all those things first and perform a miracle or something like that.
The immaculate. They have to perform some type of miracle, kind of like the Immaculate Conception. So if there's some situation, I forgot what the hell the term is, but I'd be photographing in these Catholic churches, and I actually watched somebody get deemed whatever the title is for that. Like if they make something specific happen. Okay. For like some type of miracle happen. You're right about that. But yeah, when that happens, I think they get deemed a saint of some type.
Yeah, and Prince Bernhard was a Nazi. He actually was a soldier for the Nazi SS, and he was one of the co-founders of the Bilderberg group. So when you see like the Bilderberg, they have those meetings. He was one of the co-founders of the Bilderberg group. So yeah. I did not know that he was actually had the power to veto the Vatican's choice.
So you got a Nazi that was part of the Bilderbergs that has the power to veto the Vatican's choice of a Pope it selects.
But when you look at the Nazi and they were actually, the Catholic Church was working with the Nazis at the height of Nazi, when they began to exterminate a lot of people in Croatia. You had the law was that you had to be of Aryan descent and a Catholic.
But they did the same thing in Argentina as well. All those Germans, that's where they ran to, and they was using Catholicism down there to get the people. But you had Germans after World War II. A lot of them went to hide into South America. My bad. So.
Yeah. So one of the things that they had was they had laws saying that if you were you had to be of Aryan descent and a Catholic, and if you weren't both of those, you was going to be exterminated. And there's a lot of things that they was implementing in Yugoslavia, those Russian areas that they called eventually the Soviet Union after the fall of Nazi Germany. So yeah, they exterminated a lot of people in Russia. The Germans.
Hey, peace to Brother Moses in the chat. I don't know how to call you after the show because Brother Moses said he's not getting the when I go live, he's not getting the hit.
You're blacklisted. Yeah, you're blacklisted, bro.
Yeah, I know.
Make sure.
Well, what you do though is the person that is not getting the notification, you unsubscribe and then subscribe again, and then hit the notification.
Yeah, try that, Brother Moses. Unsubscribe and then subscribe again and hit the notification. You might have.
I was going to say sometimes I notice for certain channels the bell gets turned off on mine.
Yeah, well, Brother Moses, because Brother Moses is a very important person to my channel. We got a lot of work together that we did. So Brother Moses is actually part of the crew. He should have his ass up here, but but yeah, he's not. So peace to Brother Moses. We got peace to Janice Lewis. Janice been with me since day one when I was having 4 people watching. Peace to Janice. My family, Riz, Asiatic Black Man, Voice of Reason. Yes, so other people's come in since we go. So start back from the top from there and make sure you guys take that name down, Prince Bernhard, because that's important. Go ahead, Mark.
The Black nobility belonged to the Committee of 300 that controls the UN Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands. Well, hold on, let me pause that correctly because it says that controls the UN, period. Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands has the power to veto the Vatican's choice of any pope it selects. This may explain the untimely end to Pope John Paul the first 33-day pontificate. The prince has veto power because his family, the Habsburgs, are descendants directly from the last Roman emperor. The Habsburg Frederick III was the last emperor to be crowned in Rome. His great-grandson, Charles V, was the last to be crowned by a pope. This is the civil equivalent of the pope's claimed apostolic succession from St. Peter.
So when they say Rome is still running the world, it would be safe to say that there's truth to that. Rome never fell.
All roads lead to Rome.
Yeah, they said that Rome. You know, how they say that the Roman dynasty fell, but Rome never fell. I mean, basically just renamed themselves and went underground. Yeah, go ahead. They use religion. They use religion as the way to stay in power, I would say. Go ahead, brother.
Prince Bernhard is leader of the Black families, and he also claims descendant of the House of David through the Merovingian dynasty, a claim that was acknowledged to be valid by the Carolingian dynasty and supplanted them, but other monarchs by the Roman Church of that time. Thus, he can truly say that he is related to Jesus.
Oh my God, man.
Prince Bernhard's House of Orange had its origins in France. The Habsburgs are related through marriage with the Merovingians, who are said to have descended from the tribe of Benjamin, who went into exile following war with the other 11 tribes. See Judges chapter 1. Exile took them to Arcadia in the central Peloponnese, Greece. Here they aligned with the Arcadian royal line, and towards the advent of the Christian era, migrated up to Danube and Rhine through marriage, engendering the Sicambrian Franks,
That's
the
right.
immediate forebears of the Merovingians, who were ultimately the Semitic origin and descendants of King Saul.
So let me say this. So these people took the Bible and actually wrote themselves into the book. They took this Bible because see, some say Soleimani, they actually wrote the Bible. They wrote this shit and then they basically put themselves. Where you at, Soleimani? I want to put this out there for a minute in the chat room, and whoever may see this video, somebody make a comment on this because I'm not speaking in absolute as if I'm 100% correct. Some say that these people actually wrote the book because they wanted to write themselves into the pantheon of gods. Because as they begin to conquer, each nations and places they was conquering had a belief system. So they created this and wrote themselves into this story. Some say they stole the story and actually put themselves in the story as descendants of the characters of the books. You see what I'm saying, Solomon?
Yeah. I think it's a kind of a combination of both. Like, cause when you read the Bible, there's certain things in there that is speaking in the context of like the Egyptians being in power, and then the Garden of Eden being like in the area, probably like Ethiopia. It would kind of suggest that, you know, the origin of the people that's writing that book is from that region. And then there's other stuff in the Bible, particularly like the New Testament, that speaks of, they kind of make a quick transition. That's why it's easy to point out contradictions in the Bible. And even the Bible in itself is really not what they had at the time. You know, like the Bible was like, they just took a lot of books and then compiled it together and said that this is the Bible. So that's why you don't have the word Bible in the Bible, you know. So that's what the councils was for. Like the Council of Nicaea, the Council of Trent, they were deciding how to copulate all these different books into what they call like the Bible, today's Bible. So you got different churches with different ideologies that have different books in the Bible. So in the Bible, it'll mention a book that's not in the Bible. It's like, have you read the book of Jasher and the book of Wars? No, because it's not in the Bible. But it says that in the Bible. Have you read this particular book? So they tried to take manuscripts, put them together, manipulate the manuscripts to establish themselves as direct descendants of a created individual that they call Jesus Christ. That's just a fact. That's what they did. Now, was it a person that may have gotten crucified? And yeah, well, that can be up for debate and all that. But we're talking about their agenda and this created individual. Because when you look at the Crucified, there's a book called 16 Crucified Saviors, where you could see a common theme of a crucified Savior. So that was something that was existed before Jesus Christ. So that mythological story, they took and applied it and used that along with certain things historically. They mixed it up. It's a gumbo of a lot of stuff. And now they want to claim direct descendants to this falsified, created character. And that's the conspiracy. like I said, they are the people of Ptolemy the first. When he was the first person that did it. They took like Serapis was a combination of Apis and Apis the bull, and I forget the other one, Osiris. And he combined it and he created this god, Serapis. Now you worship that god. And that's what they call the first form of soteriology, because the way the ancient people had a spirituality, it wasn't really believing in something outside of themselves. One with nature, they had a more Gnostic interpretation of spirituality. So all that stuff is new. But the reason why they had to do that is because I can't have everybody believing in themselves. I can't control them. I gotta pick this one guy and tell you to worship that God that's outside. You don't have no power. It's that God that has the power. You gotta worship that God, and the closest person to that God is this motherfucker right here. They call the Pope, and I'm controlling him. So I'm controlling everybody. So, and if you don't believe that, then I'm gonna label you a heretic, and we get to do anything. We get to kill you. So this is the whole game plan.
Yeah, yeah. Asiatic black man. I see what you wrote there. I also believe there's much truth in the Bible, but it's based on context and the way it's presented. I guess to each person they may see it differently, but as for me, to me, it's wisdom that has been passed down over multiple groups of people, starting back into your ancient Kemet's and stuff like that. Because it's not hard to take if you can understand the pattern in which wisdom is presented, you could literally create your own religious text. You just have to understand the pattern in which it's put together. Once you understand that, you can shape an entire book to tell stories that have secondary meanings, like mnemonics kind of things. Like if I say Eve came out of Adam's rib, I can say that that's the same thing as saying that how you split an atom. You see what I mean? So it's all based on context, utilizing ancient wisdom.
My wife said the white man gonna get us. We talking about his book.
Remember, funny thing is, I was talking about this before the stream actually started. I was like, they use mathematics to determine whether they should come after us or not. Now, if there's a plan that hasn't been presented yet and you strike a chord on that, yeah, somebody could be in your face real quick. But other than that, if you're just spitting truth that it's out there, but a lot of people don't know it, they're just watching the math to determine whether or not they should come after you. Like you have to be able to say words and affect a lot of people for that to actually be the case.
Yeah, let me say this as we move forward. As you can see, because as we begin to go down, Farrakhan had wrote a book. I forgot the name of the book. I know Asiatic Black Men and Janice probably know the name of the book, but Farrakhan talked about how these so-called Jews went around the world to different cultures and customs, took on the names and cultures and customs, but they were Jews and they controlled the banking systems and the government, all the governments. And you're going to see how these people call themselves Jews. And as we're showing now, we're showing how they took Christianity and Judaism, took on, like we're showing the names and became these people. So this is why I actually wanted to show it from this aspect, because you see these people like Prince Bernard and out of these houses, they got the people believing that this man says, I come from the tribe of Benjamin, and I'm next to Christ. I'm a descendant of this, and like the people believe it, and this is how they stay in power. So now as we read, as we read down, Brother Marv, you keep going. We're going to identify the Spartans as Jews. Watch this. Go ahead, Brother Marv.
They are identified with the Spartans. And both books of Maccabees link the Spartans with the Jews. Maccabees, sorry. The First Maccabees 12 tells of Jonathan sending a letter to the Lacedaemonians, Spartan Greeks, asking for their help. Since they were brethren, the Spartans replied, "It is found in writing that the Lacedaemonians and Jews are brethren, and they are of the stock of Abraham. It is assumed by some writers that this means the Spartans were Israelites, but the Spartans were not Israelites. They were Edomites descending from Bela, son of Beor, and brother of Baalim. The king of Edom, Genesis 36:32, First Chronicles 1:43. Edom was the son of Isaac and grandson of Abraham, who sold his birthright and bred his posterity off the book of life. Early in the 5th century, the Merovingians established themselves in what now Belgium and northern France, in what is now Belgium and northern France.
I lost you for a minute.
Hmm.
Okay, I got you.
Okay. Early in the 5th century, the Merovingians established themselves in what is now Belgium and northern France. There, they adopted Kabbalistic pseudo-Christianity of the Cathars, a dualistic religion that holds that there are two eternal gods, the God of good and the God of evil. It is revealing that this Luciferian belief is held by Masons of high decree and those who would be masters of this world today, and who claim that Lucifer will ultimately be victorious. Under Clovis I, who reigned from 481 to 511, the Franks converted to Roman Catholicism. Through him, Rome began to establish undisputed supremacy in Western Europe. In return for being the sword of Rome, whereby the church would manifest her power and impose a spiritual dominion, Clovis was granted the title of New Constantine, and to preside over a unified Holy Roman Empire based on the church and administered on the secular level in perpetuity by the Merovingian bloodline.
Hey, real quick, how do I make the screen, hit the icon and make the screen share bigger? Chat.
Hold control and hit the plus button multiple times is what I do.
Okay, yeah, they want me to make it bigger.
Yeah, because for some reason, usually when you share, don't it usually fill up the screen more?
Oh, this is. All right. Oh shit! I think I might. I'll make it smaller. Hold control, hit the minus.
Yeah, but the thing is, for us, it's really small on the screen. Like I got your Well, let me do something. Let me blow this box up and see how it actually looks. Yeah, on my TV. Yeah, there you go. Right. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because Moses said that they wanted to see the screen bigger. Okay. Peace. What's up, Gad? Brother Gad? Big bro in the house. Okay.
All right. So where was I at? Perpetuity by the Merovingian bloodline. All right. Like the sure mercies of David, this was a pact that could be modified but not revoked, broken, or betrayed. When in 496, the church pledged itself in perpetuity to the Merovingian bloodline, it was presumably in full knowledge of their claimed identity. This would explain why Clovis was offered the status of Holy Roman Emperor, and why he was not created but only crowned king. In 754, the church clandestinely betrayed its pact. The Prêcheurs de Sion is the name of the secret order which created the Knights Templars as its military and administrative arm. It should be remembered that the Knights Templars were the forerunners of free. Remember, I was talking about that the other day. I was saying correct because I haven't talked about it in so long. I couldn't remember the details of the whole thing, but I remember the Knights Templars were the ones who enforced Catholicism and destroyed anybody who wasn't down with the crew. You know. It would be remembered that the Knights Templars were the forerunners of Freemasonry.
Hold on, real quick. Oh no,
Mm-hmm.
No, Gab has said something, but he took it down.
Okay.
He put it back up. Write down the Prior. What's that? How you say that? The Prior.
I guess it's like Priore de Sion.
Yeah, write that down because we're going to actually look into that. We're going to look into the Prior design because it says that they actually created the Knights Templar, and that's important.
That might be the Priory of Sion. It feels like they're writing it differently. In art history, I hear it differently, but it's not written like that.
Yeah, Shalonda, aka Back to the Basics. Thanks for the $10 super chat. Thank you very much.
All right. The Priory de Sion continues to function through the centuries, acting in the shadows, and has orchestrated certain critical events in Western history. It exists today and still operates. Its declared objective is the restoration of the Merovingian dynasty and bloodline to the throne, not only of France, but of other European nations as well. A restoration that is sanctified and justifiable, both legally and morally. There is strong evidence to suggest that this order was the author of Freemasonry and the protocols of the learned elders of Sion, as well as the Rosicrucians. There is abundant evidence to suggest that Nostradamus was one of their secret agents, and there is no question that numerous quatrains, which refer to the advent of Le Grand Monarque, indicate that this sovereign will ultimately derive from the Merovingian dynasty. implying a double hegemony of the papacy and of the empire, of the Vatican and of the Habsburgs. He freed to the Knights Templars and to the House of Lorraine, which is now synonymous with the Habsburgs.
And we know that we know who the Habsburgs are, and those are the people that said that they their base was related to Christ.
Mm-hmm. Although deposed in the 8th century, the Merovingian bloodline did not become extinct. On the contrary, it perpetuated itself in a direct line from Dagobert II and his son Sigisbert IV. By dint of dynastic alliances and intermarriages, this line came to conclude Godefroy de Bouillon and captured Jerusalem in 1099, and various other noble and royal families past and present. Blanchefort, Gisors, St. Clair of England, Montesquieu, Montpezant, Poer, Louisian, what the hell?
So is that a word that you can't pronounce?
Louisignan, it just doesn't roll off the tongue well. Louisignan, I guess. Plantert and Habsburg Lorraine. At present, the Merovingian bloodlines enjoys a legitimate claim to its heritage. The crown of Charlemagne.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, I want people to write down that Merovingian bloodline. Because the Merovingian bloodline is this bloodline where they're saying, for people that's coming in late, where they're saying that they're related to Christ and Mary Magdalene, who had a child, and they're descendants of the children of Christ and Mary Magdalene. So they have a descendant. They have a line up to Christ. So this is what we're constantly telling the people, that they actually took this book and they actually literally wrote themselves into the descendants of the book, and that's how they control the people. So go ahead, brother.
The crown of Charlemagne, a replica of which is now part of the Imperial Habsburg regalia, is said to have borne the inscription Rex Salomon. Encyclopedia Britannica, 14th edition, 1972, crown and regalia, figure 2. And the spear of destiny, which is said to have pierced Christ, reside today in the treasure house, Vienna, awaiting another Holy Roman Emperor.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Yeah. So they said that they got the spear, which is said to have pierced Christ. So they wrote their stuff in the story. They say that the story is real, and we say we even got the spear. This spear right here that killed Christ, we got it. We got this reside in the treasure house in Vienna. Go ahead.
Vienna, in the treasure, let me see, which is said to have pierced Christ, reside today in Treasure House, Vienna, awaiting another Holy Roman Emperor. All right. The Rigby Joy of Knowledge Library, History and Culture, number 1, 1977, colon 160. The Holy Roman Empire, Friedrich Heer, page 284. It is clear why the protocols of the elders of Sion speak of a new king of the holy seed of David, holy blood, and the Holy Grail, Bajent, Ley, and Lincoln. Otto von Habsburg is today the titular Duke of Lorraine and King of Jerusalem. The Priore de Sion claimed to hold the lost treasure of the Templar of Jerusalem, plundered by Titus in AD 70, which would be returned to Israel when the time was right. This might explain why Rome must defer to the kings of the earth, and how she will seal a covenant with the Jews who have long hidden behind the shield of baptism. Is that seal of covenant what they talk about in Revelations? It might be, I don't know. Prince Bernhard is in fact related to the Khazars, and therefore a Gentile. Revelations 2:9. I know thy works and tribulation and poverty, but you are rich. And I know that the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. Assisted by the CIA, Prince Bernhard has brought the hidden ruling body of the Illuminati into public knowledge as the Bilderberg Group. Established in 1954, its headquarters is 1 Smidswater, Den Haag, Netherlands. At the heart of the Bilderberg Group are 39 members of the Illuminati chosen from 3 committees drawn from the members of all the secret groups that comprise the Illuminati, the Freemasons, the Vatican, and the Black Nobility. This committee works year-round in offices in Switzerland. The Committee of 300 now call themselves World Government Founders for the NWO, a reference, no doubt, to their hereditary claim to the divine right of kings. It is imperative that we
hold on. So now when you see that divine right of kings, that divine right of kings represents that they are all family that comes out of these houses that's connected to the what is it called? The Meridians, the Meridians.
The Merovingians, yeah.
Yeah, they're connected to these different groups that say that they trace their bloodline back to Christ. So when you hear Illuminati, I tell people don't get all, the Illuminati. No, fuck all that. Forget the Illuminati. Let's look at the families and who they say they are. Because see, I know that you're going to have some black people that's going to try to run interference the minute they hear the word Illuminati. And they're going to try to get you to throw away all the other information that was said, how we're lining up these names of these people, these governments, and how they're all interconnected and intermarried to each other. So don't hear the word Illuminati and get spooked. Listen to the family's connections and who they say they are. Go ahead, brother.
Yep. It is imperative that we realize that privately, the black nobility refused to ever recognize any government other than their own inherited and divine right to rule. They believe the United States still belongs to England and work diligently behind the scenes to cause conditions whereby they might regain their crowns. Every royal and so-called noble dynasty, past and present of Europe, have seats on the Committee of 300, most often by nominees. There are just too many of these royal families for them each to have representatives on a Committee of 300. Precedence is determined by rank. First royal family members, then dukes, earls, marquises, and lords, then finally commoners, who usually get the title of Sir. Sir Commoner, Sir George, Sir Solomire. The hierarchy of the global pyramid of power and how Rome fits into this pyramid pinnacle. The Jesuit General Superior, or the Black Pope, is the single most powerful man on earth. He rules over the Admiralty maritime laws of commerce. He controls the banking system, Freemasonry, and all the secret services, CIA, FBI, NSA, SIS, MI6, MI5, Scotland Yard, the Mossad, the CSIS, the DGSE, the FSB. Whole lot of alphabets. The Vatican owns 60% of all Israel lands.
Hold on, real quick.
Yep.
I want to deal with something. I don't know Courtney Fluker, so we don't do that over here. We're not doing the Why Are Black Men Weak and the Black Women Weak. This is a different consciousness, different mindset of people here. I don't want nobody to time her out, but I just don't want that kind of talk in my chat room. Black men are not weak. Black women are not weak. What we are is misinformed, and our people got conquered. We lost. There was a time when we lost. So, but I don't want that kind of talk in the chat room. I actually want a different mindset of our people as we begin to move forward. We got to get out of that kind of talk and putting ourselves down. As a black woman, you should never talk like that to put your men down. And as a black man, you should never talk down on a black woman. We got to get out of that way of thinking. You know, because when we talk like that, we sound like the white man. And I want to get out of that way of thinking. So if anybody feels as though they want to talk that way in my chat room or here, I'm going to respectfully ask you to leave. I don't want nobody to time her out. Don't call her no names. Don't do none of that. But I just don't want that kind of talk in my chat rooms. Sorry, Martin.
Okay. The Vatican owns 60% of all Israelite lands to the lands of the Temple Mount for their future third temple, where they will enthrone their Messiah. He is a part of the Arcanorum, controlled by the papal bloodlines. These bloodlines they got R twice, that's funny, are referred to as the Omega points of control. These bloodlines are behind the Black Pope, or the Jesuit Superior General Aldefano Nicolas Pachon, installed in January of 2008. Well, there's your name right there, right? Although it was a little different when I looked it up, though.
Yeah, real quick, because remember, he was, well, read the rest of it, and then, because remember, you Googled the new guy, because this is 2008, there's a new guy.
Yeah,
so
ours said 2000.
Yeah.
All right. The position will change personalities in the next general session of the Jesuits as FR?
Yeah.
Was it Friar or something? I don't know. FR Adolfo Nicolas Pachon has submitted his resignation for the upcoming session. Well, there you go. over his indictment at the International Common Law Court of Justice for child trafficking and murder. Yeah, they bounced him up out of there, as we can see.
This was the guy that was the head. This was the guy that was the head of the Jesuit order, and we know that the Jesuit army is. Yeah. So who's the new guy that's the head as of 2016? Who was the new guy when you looked it up, Mark?
Hold on, let me see if I can pull that back up. What was the question you asked me earlier? Jesuit. Here we go.
Okay.
All right. It says incumbent Arturo Sosa since October 14th, 2016.
So he's the Jesuit superior general.
Mm-hmm.
So it says these bloodlines are behind the Black Pope. So remember they say the Black Pope is supposed to be this guy, or the Jesuit superior general Adolfo Nicholas Pecan, installed in January 2008. The position will change. So the position changed because he was arrested on child trafficking and murder. So now what we have to do is we have to look him up and find out what happened to him, or did he just go away?
Right.
Because as a Jesuit, child trafficking, we already know what they were doing. So these are the people that when I keep telling people that the law doesn't apply to them. Like they do what they want to do. They have laws for the common people, us on the ground, and then they have their own court system and laws amongst themselves, where they are above the prosecution of us. Like for Habsburg or any of these families being in our courts is beneath them. They would never be in our courts. You're not going to see a Rothschild just in a regular court. Go ahead, brother.
Yep. So at this point, it's two charts. There's a pyramid leading up to the all-seeing eye, and the Illuminati family members of the Committee of 300. They got some names down here. Below that, we're a little below the half point. So if you want, you can use that history of Black nobility as a part 2, or you got the option to keep going.
Let's keep ripping because we got through it fast. Let's keep ripping.
All right. The history of the Black nobility. In Carthage, the Canaanites called themselves Punics. Rome attacked Carthage in full force beginning in 264 BC and completed their task after killing or enslaving every Carthaginian by sowing the land to salt so that nothing could ever grow there again. Damn. That's salty. Because, if you salt an entire land, you remove all the moisture from it. And when you do that, nothing can grow. You ever have salt put in your wound, you know what that feel like. The Edomites descend from Esau, later intermarried with the Turks to produce a Turco-Edomite mixture, which later became known as Chazars, or the Khazars that we were mentioning earlier, Khazars, who are the present occupants of Israel. These Canaanites eventually adopted the name Sepharvaim for deceptive purposes. They later became known as the Venetians, and by marrying into European royalty and aristocracy, the Black nobility.
So basically, the Khazars that's ruling Israel now are Edomites, in a mixture of different groups. They're not the original Jews that's down in the system that they're running. They're part of these families, and this is crazy. So go ahead. So watch this. The Venetians today. Go ahead, bro.
Yep. The Venetians today control the Federal Reserve System in the United States. So hold up. If they occupants of it, I'm just lining this up. They are present occupants of Israel. These Canaanites eventually adopted the name Sepharvaim for deceptive purposes, later became known as Venetians. Then if I skip down, the Venetians today control the Federal Reserve System in the U.S.
But that's why they say the Jews run the banking, because these are your Khazars.
Mm-hmm. Funny, because people always did say when we talk about the richest people in the world, there are some people who understood like, it's some really rich Israelites. Like a lot of money is made over there.
Yeah, well, those are your Khazars that control Israel.
Mm-hmm. Around AD 1400, European power centers coalesced into two camps. The Ghibellines, who supported the emperors Hohenstaufen.
That's a German.
I know, right? The emperor's Hohenstaufen family, the Guelphs from wealth, and the German prince who competed with Frederick for control of the Holy Roman Empire. The Pope aligned himself with the Guelphs. All modern history stems directly from the struggle between these two powers. The Gulfs are also called the Neri, Black Gulfs, or Black Nobility, and supported William of Orange in his seizure of the throne of England, which eventually resulted in the formation of the Bank of England and the East Indian Company, which would rule the world from the 17th century. All coups d'états, revolutions, and wars in the 19th and 20th centuries are centered in the Battle of the Gulfs to hold and enhance their power, which is now the New World Order.
And the Gulfs is where the Queen comes out of, as we showed in the beginning. So this right here explains that they have their own laws and wars amongst themselves. Has nothing to do, well, it has something to do with us because we get affected by it. But they're fighting each other for power and control as to who's going to have the seats. And they're explaining this to you with the different families. So go ahead, brother.
1 second.
The power of the Gulfs.
Y'all can leave that conversation kind of be. Like, I kind of got y'all points in there. George responded to Courtney and she apologized, so we can let it lay from there. Let's just go forward from here if you guys can.
Yeah, don't get distracted, y'all. Let's stick to the topic. Courtney's cool. Courtney's cool, man. Courtney's cool.
Yeah, we good from here on out. She straight apologized and let everybody know, she gets it. She apologized, so we're gonna rock on, y'all. The power of the Gulfs would extend through the Italian financial centers of the north to the north of France in Lombardy. All Italian bankers were referred to as Lombards. All right, Lombard South down South Philly, right, George?
Yeah. It said the Lombards were bankers to the entire medieval world.
Yep. Lombard in German means deposit bank, and the Lombards were bankers to the entire medieval world. They would later transfer operations north to Hamburg and then to Amsterdam and finally to London. The Gulfs would start the slave trade to the colonies. The Gulfs, in order to aid their control of finance and politics, would perpetuate Gnostic cults, which eventually developed into Rosicrucians, Unitarians, Fabian Society, and the World Council of Churches.
That's how they controlled you. That's how they went around. If you didn't accept this Christianity, they just killed you.
Yo, I'm a check, but my brother might be a part of that World Council of Churches, yo. I'm a check. I'm gonna make sure because he was so good that he did get approached.
Yeah.
So I'll let you know. I'll keep you guys posted on that. We might have somebody who's kind of like in that whole thing, which could be a plus for us.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the East Indian Company, you look at how they talked about slave trade, how they built their wealth. Because when you look at the house at the Gulfs, that's where the Queen of England come out of, as we showed at the beginning. And we showed the different houses. So these different houses, they don't all get along because they all fight to be at the top.
Yep.
So this is something. What I'm saying is, and what we're showing, because people ask, well, why are you showing this? Well, we're showing this because when people say, well, what should we do when you see these diseases coming out? You're the sheep on the ground. And I did a lot. Let me just give me 2 minutes for a minute, Let me just say this to people. I did a live stream where I talked about color and race, and I got a lot of people that agree with me. Some people I got flat because I'm a believer that race and color is a construct. Now I understand biological, us being the original people is one thing, but this black, white, these ambiguous terms of nation states is all garbage. They created this shit to have division over you and keep us divided and making us see ourselves as something that we're not. And that's how they stay in power. Because on a larger scale, they don't give a fuck about none of that stuff that you talk about. They don't care nothing about your Islam. They don't care nothing about your Christianity. They care about race mixing for power and control. Because that's how they stay in power. But for the most part, they got us trying to operate like them, and we're not them. But that's how they stay in power. They're fighting and creating wars and killing people and population control all at the top. And the people at the bottom, the probably the 8 billion people at the bottom, all don't have a clue about none of this stuff. So we don't even know how to fight them. We don't even know how to question them. We don't know how to stop them. Remember we on the last one we showed, they said we control 50% of the wealth of the world, and we're a minority, so they had to stay in the shadows in the background. So they created a matrix. They create a matrix and place you in it and make you believe in it, force the matrix that they create. So now they don't have to show themselves. They just make you CEOs. They make you a billionaire. They make you 100 millionaire. They make you a president of a company, and you will die enforcing this fabricated system that they created. And you will support the queen when she comes. You will wait for the queen because you believe that she's a descendant of Christ. This is crazy. They eugenics on the line. Go ahead, brother.
Yep, and they some cold people. Like, they don't care about rules. They manipulate. They create rules to block you. They manipulate the rules to favor them. And it's weird because when you look at the history, it's kind of like, you know, you got this Anglo-Saxon thing, all white, and then they mix with other people to strengthen their resolve and build unity with people to further their own plan. And then they create a rift between the white and black on a certain level to make the man on the lower totem pole fight from race to race, while at the top, there's still the white race who says, yeah, we trying to, you know, for those of us who are up here who are white in power, we're trying to kind of lock all of the resources and everything off for ourselves. So while y'all down there fighting with each other, we're using who we got to use to keep ourselves in power. But at the same time, they can use the argument of, well, there's no racism. And then in certain cases, they say, well, there is. You see, it's
real quick, we got 70 people in the chat room. I got 49 thumbs up. I got 49 thumbs up and 1 thumb down. So get those likes up, man. For everybody that didn't hit that thumb up so this it can go out. It can go out other people.
As the thumbs go up, the amount of people who can see this video in their timeline go up.
Yeah, so everybody that's watching now, you know, hit those thumbs up. Please hit those thumbs up.
Because I know y'all be in the chat feeling like, man, other people should hear this. Thumbs up is one of the ways they can.
All right, go ahead, brother.
Yep. Where did we leave off at? A friend of Bill?
Yeah.
Or I'm above that because I think I'm on the last sentence of that last one after the World Council of Churches.
Okay.
Yeah, the East Indian Company, together with John Stuart Mill, would finance the University of London. A friend of Mill, historian George Grote, a founder of London University, donated 6,000. Which currency is that?
Euros.
6,000 euros for the study of mental health, which began the worldwide mental health movement. So is this where we get guys like Gustav Le Bon and Sigmund Freud? Is this where all that jumps in?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Banks, large and small, in the thousands, are in the Committee of 300 network, including the Banca Commerciale d'Italia, the Banca Privata, the Banca Ambrosiano, the Netherlands Bank, Barclays Bank, Banco de Colombia, Banco de Ibero-America. Of special interest is Banca della Svizzera. These names are crazy. Italiana, the BSI. Since it handles flight capital investments to and from the United States, primarily in dollars and U.S. bonds, located and isolated in neutral Lugano, the flight capital center for the Venetian black nobility. Lugano is not in Italy or in Switzerland. It is a kind of twilight zone for shady flight capital operations. George Ball, who owns a large block of stock in BSI, is a prominent insider and the bank's U.S. representative. In the secret 1822 Treaty of Verona between Austria, France, Prussia, and Russia, the Jesuits agreed to smash the U.S. Constitution and suppress the freedom of the United States. Their methods included destroying free speech, destroying and suppressing the press, universal censorship, sustaining and cooperation of the Pope and the clergy to use religion to help keep nations in passive obedience, and financing wars against countries with representative governments. Yeah, that was.
But that's why when you go to other countries and we say, why are these people so docile and soft? Well, they use religion. They use religion and the banking systems to keep these people impoverished, poor, hungry, and in worship. And the only thing, see, I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna tell you something. We talk the psychological thing, but a lot of people don't get it. A lot of people be thinking they book smart, but they don't get it. When you take a people that's been beaten down so much, and not just African Americans, let's just talk about people in poor countries around the world, because it's not just us. See, white supremacy kill white people too. You got white people that never been around black people that hate white people in other countries. So it's not just us. And I want you to understand something. People been in countries that's been bombed, family members killed, impoverished with no food. And the only thing they have is their faith and belief that a God or somebody's going to come and change it. That's psychological, man. That's what these people are. Evil, man. Evil. Use our military and our might to starve these nations and to keep them down, trying to dilapidate it. And the only thing that they have is their belief in God. And we control that too.
Yep.
That's what they've done. So when you hear this, the Pope, clergy to use religions to help keep nations passive obedience and financing wars against countries with representative governments, this is what they're talking about. They want to keep you in straight docileness and obedience to us. We control your food. We're going to come and give you immunizations when we make you sick. We're going to give you Jesus. And you're going to love us for it. And you're going to hate and blame your own people. You're going to hate and blame your own people. And you're going to say these niggas ain't shit. I'm going to marry a white woman. Or so maybe and have light-skinned babies, and maybe I can advance myself. I want to put on a suit and talk like them. And I want to get to their government. I don't want to fight against them. See what I'm saying? It's all psychological, man.
And when you read the Revelation, you start finding out that you're talking about the end of times and someone's going to come back and save you. Like George was saying at the very beginning, you're thinking someone's going to come back and save you, when what you're doing is you're producing the exact story that they are planning for. So when you're saying it's all going to end, Jesus is going to come back, they're saying a new world order is going to come. We're going to install this new leader. We're going to have this utopian society. They're saying it's like, that's why there was that argument about 30 years ago in the undergrounds of the people who were having classes like this back before we could do social media like this. A lot of them were talking about, was the Bible some type of divine prophetic book, or was it a plan that was written in plain sight for people to read, and those who could think for themselves could truly understand what was going on?
Go ahead, brother.
Where we at? The monarch sign?
Yeah, we got it's probably about another 25 minutes worth of work. So we did good because we only an hour and a half in. A little less than an hour and a half. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna hit a chunk of this then. The monarchs who signed this treaty were ultimately deposed. Most of these families are very wealthy and may be more powerful today than when they sat upon the thrones. They are known collectively as the Black Nobility. Privately, these families refuse to recognize any right to rule except their own. They mentioned that earlier too. The fact that this treaty was made long ago does not mean it is void. The treaty was placed in the congressional record on April 25th, 1916. So if you guys want to check congressional records for validation of the article, they just gave you a time period to check it, April 25th, 1916.
And they give you the senator too.
Yep, by Senator Owen. In 1948, George H.W. Bush graduated from Yale University and the Skull and Bones. He is a distant cousin of the Queen of England, part of the Black Nobility, which traces its power back 5,000 years. Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands created a group that became known as the Bilderbergs. Many conservative researchers have come to recognize the Bilderbergers as an important force for the New World Order. Note, since Bilderbergers, according to the former British intelligence agent John Coleman, serving as a binding force between the three major one world government forces, the Wicca Masons, i.e. communism, the Black Nobility, descendants of the early Roman emperors, and the Maltese Jesuits, which each of which have 13 respective representatives on the 39-member Bilderberg board. And since a Nazi SS stormtrooper was responsible for developing this New World Order Coordination Council, and since Adolf Hitler's second book was titled, believe it or not, The New World Order, no wonder Adolf Hitler's dream and that of his predecessors are the Kaisers, a German translation of Caesars, was the revival of the Roman Empire. There was a lot of commas and colons in that, John. I couldn't even tell how to read it properly.
You know what's funny though? See, people got to know how to put it together. So now, when you talk about the Kaiser and the revival, Caesar and the revival of the German Empire, now let's go into who was funding Hitler.
Right.
That's when you get into the House of Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, and then you get into the House of the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds, and they're connected to these families who see themselves as the descendants of Christ that comes out of all these teachings. So Hitler was connected to all of this stuff. So I'm trying to tell you, many people died in World War I and World War II fighting these elites fight. The elites had a fight amongst themselves, and they used us as cannon fire. White, black. So people hear me, a lot of pro-black people, they hear me say, George, you talking crazy. No, white people kill white people and miseducated white people too. And miseducated black people. These people miseducated the world and used everybody as cannon fire. for their own personal gain. So when you're being beat like this and you have no way of fighting it, the only thing you can do is worship and believe a God. Some type of God is going to come back and kill these people. Because there's no other way of saying, well, when is this going to stop? There has to be a return of a Mahdi. There has to be a return of a Christ. So they said, you know what? Let's give that to them. Let's whoop their ass and then make them believe that the great Mahdi is coming. The great spaceship is coming. And it's going to come and descend down and destroy these families. Because World War I, World War II, the war between the states, them enslaving, them conditioning white people to enslave black people by miseducating them and all this different stuff, man. This is done by the global elites that control everything for their own power and gain. So we got to see things from a 360. Yeah, you can say I can say I hate white people, but what the fuck? What does that mean? When you don't even understand why you say it. See, if I say I hate white people, I have to articulate why I hate white people, where that thought come from, the language I'm using to say it, the education that I'm getting to say it. And once I start to do that and start to follow the trail, now I start saying, wait a minute. I hate white? No. I hate these people. These are the people that did it. These are the people that's controlling everything and has everybody going crazy all over the world. Because like I said, you can go to Russia and Kazakhstan, you can go to Pakistan and see places that ain't got no black people ain't. We're not there. They don't have a problem with us. They got a problem with the fights and wars they have there, based off these global elites' interests. It has nothing to do with us. But they being killed, bombed every day. Afghanistan, all these different countries. So it's not just us. Go ahead, brother.
Yep. According to former British intelligence agent Dr. John Coleman, the three world power groups, the Wicca Masons, i.e. communism, the Maltese Jesuits, and the Black Nobility. Black is this context refers to their character, not their skin color. All work for and under the central command of the Bavarian Illuminati, which binds them together. The Bavarians created the Bilderberg Society for this purpose, the core of which is a council of 13 members from each of the three groups, or 39 in all. The old line ruling families who believe that they have the right to rule the world because they are descendants from the emperors of the ancient Roman and so-called Holy Roman empires consist of 13 to 15 blue blood families, which include Bush, Goldman, Harriman.
Okay. Yeah, you all the way down there. Okay, go ahead.
Yep, Bush, Goldman, Harriman, Kuhn, Lambert, Lazard, Lehman, Loeb, Morgan, Rockefeller, Rothschild, Sack, Schiff, Schroeder, Safe, and Warburg. Others that have not been mentioned are more powerful than others, but these names will get you started if you wish to track down the present-day inner core of the conspiracy. The history of the Bilderberg Group itself, a cover for the Bavarian Illuminati, and its Nazi connections would probably be the best place to start. Prominent members of the Committee of 300. The Giustiniani family, black nobility of Rome and Venice, who trace their lineage to Emperor Justinian. Sir Jocelyn Hambro of the Ambrose Merchant Bank. Pier Paolo, the Luziati Facchese, whose lineage dates back 6 centuries to the most ancient Luzados, the black nobility of Venice. Umberto Ottolani of the ancient black nobility family of the same name. Other old Venetian black nobility board members of the Committee of 300, plus board members of ASG and RAS, are the Doria family, the financiers of the Spanish Habsburgs.
Real quick, because we're going through it fast. I'm sorry, y'all. Yeah, I'm lunching. I want y'all. Let's go back up. Let's just go back and read this up, because I want the people to be able to write this stuff down so they can look it up. Because we just going right through it. Let's just start from right here. Prominent members of the Committee 300. My bad, Marvin.
Prominent members. Okay. The Giustiniani family.
So they make sure y'all. These are prominent members of the Committee of 300. So just in case people try to run interference, and thank you for that comment. Thank you for the $20 super chat too, Brother Moses. And thank you for that comment, Irene. I needed to hear that, because I'll definitely be conscious and aware of making sure I'm not using language that's not becoming to what we should be standing on. I'm working on that, and I'm trying to be better every day. Trying to use other words to articulate myself other than cuss words. So thank you for that. because it keeps us conscious. And a lot of people may be listening, and they may be, sitting around, and now when school's not around, they got their children listening too. So we have to be conscious of that when we're speaking. Go ahead, brother.
That's a good point. Yep, the Giustiniani family, black nobility of Rome and Venice, who trace their lineage to Emperor Justinian.
Make sure you write that down. The Committee of 300 and the Giustiniani family.
Giustiniani, yep. Giustiniani, yeah. Sir Jocelyn Ambro of the Hambros.
That's Merchant Bank.
Yep.
That's the Merchant Bank. And we, so Jocelyn Hambro. Go ahead, brother.
Yep. The Pier Paolo Luzzati Fekis, whose lineage dates back 6 centuries to the most ancient Luzzatos, the black nobility of Venice.
I'm not going to try to say that name.
Umberto Ortolani of the ancient black nobility family of the same name. And then there's other old Venetian black nobility board members of the Committee of 300, plus board members of the ASG and the RASR. The Doria family, the financiers of the Spanish Habsburgs. The Élie de Rothschild.
We know the Habsburgs came out of France, but now you have Spanish Habsburgs. So, it gives validity to everything that we were laying out today and how they moved around. And again, thank you, Brother Moses, for that $20 super chat, my brother. Go ahead.
Yep. The Élie de Rothschild of the French Rothschilds family. Funny how they say of the French Rothschild family. Baron August von Fink, the second richest man in Germany, now deceased.
I gotta look that up. I never even looked. When I was going over this, I never even looked to look up who he was.
Mm-hmm. Franco Orsini Bonacassi of the ancient Orsini black nobility that traces its lineage to an ancient Roman senator of the same name. The Alba family, whose lineage dates back to the great Duke of Alba. Baron Pierre Lambert, a cousin of the Belgian Rothschild family. Yep, there you go. It's more than one. Italy was chosen as the target test by the Committee of 300. Italy is important to the conspirators' plans because it is the closest European country into the Middle East and linked to Middle East economics and politics. It is also the home of the Catholic Church, which Weishaupt ordered destroyed, and home for some of Europe's most powerful oligarchical families of the ancient black nobility. Should Italy have been weakened by Aldo Moro's death, it would have had repercussions in the Middle East, which would have weakened U.S. influence in the region. Italy is important for another reason. It is a gateway for drugs entering Europe from Iran and Lebanon. Various groups combined under the name of socialism to bring about the downfall of several Italian governments since the Club of Rome was established in 1968. Among these are the Black Nobility of Venice and Genoa, P2 Masonry, and the Red Brigades, also working for the same goals. I think Soleimar mentioned P2 earlier, right?
Yeah, did you there, Soleimar? He might have fell out too, because I know that Richie's waiting in the back, but I'm scared to unshare the screen. We just about done the I'm scared to unshare the screen because I don't want to.
Yeah, I'm still there. Yeah. I mentioned the P2 organization. It was controlling the Catholic Church, and I think you read it earlier about the assassination of Pope John Paul I, because he really wasn't following orders. I think they was trying to do. I forgot exactly what the situation was. They were trying to get him to acquiesce to, but he refused to do so, and they end up killing him. So yeah, and the propaganda too also played a role in the whole out of the north thing too, with the weapon smuggling and the whole Iranian situation.
What about the have you heard of the Black Nobility of Venice and the P2 Masonry and the Red Brigades? These were people trying to take down the entire. Well, they was running drugs from Europe to Iran and Lebanon. Yeah,
that's what I was just saying. They was they played a role in the whole weapons drugs trade that Oliver North was involved in. Yeah, that's the same group of people. The P2 is with propaganda do. I think his name was Luciano Gilli or something like that actually started it, and they started it in a Masonic lodge. It was a Masonic lodge, and they infiltrated the Catholic Church, for what they do, So yeah, they was involved in the drug trade, like you said, Iran, and also with the weapons trade too.
If I'm not mistaken, wasn't they using German SS guys at that time to actually train people down in South America?
Yeah, it was a little after the after World War II.
Yeah, because Carlos Nader, who was getting drugs from Pablo Escobar, his father was a German. He was part of the German military.
Yeah, we do know that they were, like you said, like they had rat lines, and they gave a lot of refuge to Germans in South America. So that's possible. I mean, it's even the theory they saying that Hitler actually was also died in South America. So.
Yep, but yeah, we can't prove it. So because the haters will come out and they'll hear everything we said. They hear that Hitler part down in South America. They'll do a whole stream on it. I mean, that's so much. See, I told you those guys were. You know how they do so much.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Marvin.
Police investigators in Rome working on the Red Brigade's Aldo Moro case came across the names of several very prominent Italian families working closely with this terrorist group. The police also discovered evidence that in at least a dozen cases, these powerful and prominent families had allowed their homes and or property to be used as safe houses for Red Brigade cells. Is it Pesce or Pecci? Headed the Atlantic Institute's Economic Council for 3 decades while he was the chief executive officer for Giovanni Agnelli's Fiat Motor Company. Agnelli, a member of the ancient Italian black nobility family of the same name, was one of the most important members of the Committee of 300. He played a leading role in development projects in the Soviet Union. The Club of Rome is a conspiratorial umbrella organization, a marriage between Anglo-American financiers and the old black nobility families of Europe, particularly the so-called nobility of London, Venice, and Genoa. The key to the successful control of the world is their ability to create and manage savage economic recessions and eventual depressions. The Committee of 300 looks to social convulsions on a global scale, followed by depressions, as a softening up technique for bigger things to come. It is principal method for creating masses of people all over the world who will become its welfare recipients of the future.
We're doing that now. We're actually living that.
Yep, we're living in it right now. Yep.
Right now, how they was able to just shut everything down. Go ahead.
To introduce new cults and continue to boost those already functioning, which include rock music gangsters such as the filthy, degenerate Mick Jagger's Rolling Stones, a gangster group much favored by European black nobility, and all of the Tavistock created rock groups, which began with the Beatles. I know there's a book called Tavistock Institute, Social Engineering the Masses.
But most people will hear that, and so I'm glad you said that with the book and the social engineering the masses, because they'll hear, oh, now they pull out Mick Jagger. These people will pull out anything to say anything. Well, you don't understand what these people did, how these groups came into power, how they was put in front of the cameras and had money put behind them to push forward certain things. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, the Tavistock Institute also played a role in the psychedelic revolution, and a lot of those people like Terence McKenna. Terence McKenna, he came up with like the Stone Ape theory. He was saying that the Homo erectus evolved into the Homo sapien through the use of psychedelic drugs, and they were experimenting the psychedelic drugs on the people around that time to see how the brain reacts to the psychedelic drugs, because they know that in previous civilizations that was one of the mediums that they could connect with the spiritual realm.
Yep. Well, they knew that with the Native Americans. Ready, Mark?
Yep. To continue the buildup of the cult of Christian fundamentalism begun by the British East India Company servant Darby, which will be misused to strengthen the Zionist state of Israel through identifying with the Jews through the myth of God's chosen people, and by donating very substantial amounts of money to what they mistakenly believe is a religious cause in the furtherance of Christianity. Brzezinski was not writing as a private citizen, but as Carter's national security advisor and a leading member of the Club of Rome, and a member of the Committee of 300, a member of the CFR, and as a member of the old Polish black nobility. His book explains how America must leave its industrial base behind and enter into what is called a distinct new historical era. In this regard, a French black nobility member, Etienne d'Avignon, as a member of the Committee of 300, was assigned the task of collapsing the steel industry in the U.S. And it is doubtful that any of these hundreds of thousands of steel workers and shipyard workers who have been without jobs for the past decade have ever heard of d'Avignon. A second assassin bureau is located in Switzerland, a shadowy figure of whom no photographs existed after 1941. The operations were and probably still are financed by the Altemeyer family, Swiss bank nobility owners of the Lombard Odier Bank of Geneva, a Committee of 300 operation. The primary contact man was Jacques Soustelle. This, according to U.S. Army G2 intelligence files, this group was also closely allied with Alan Dulles and Jean de Menil, an important member of the Committee of 300 and a very prominent name in the oil industry in Texas.
Real quick, what I like about this is this has names in it. So for people that say conspiracy, you can look the names up and connect everything. So when you talk about the oil industries, so now when you look at the owners of, wait, I'm sorry, I'm doing something. When you see the owners of these football teams, the owners of banks and the owners of like Home Depot and all these billionaires, give me some Walmart. All these people are very closely knit and related to these people around the world. Their bloodline. So this is stuff that you got to pay attention to, and this is the proof. This is the proof when it talks about John, David, and whatever his name are, important members of the Committee 300, very prominent names in the oil industry in Texas. All the stuff is created. They're all connected. They're all related. So you just got to look up the background of the billionaires and 100 millionaires in America, and a lot of them don't even come from here. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, Alan Dulles was the brother of John Foster Dulles, and they both were Nazi supporters. I think one of them was an attorney in Germany at the height of Nazi power, and I think Alan Dulles became head of the CIA, and he was responsible for the overthrowing of Iran and Project Ajax, I think it was called, where they overthrew Mossadegh, took him out of power just to take control over the oil company there. And that would lead into the whole Iranian revolution that we're kind of dealing with today, because what it did was set in motion, they replaced them with the Shah. And then we had the Ayatollah Khomeini in 1979. They did a revolution to take the Shah out of power. And this is what you're seeing now with Iran and why they're so anti-United States, because at a point in time, they were a democratic society and they wanted to nationalize their oil. And the British didn't want them to nationalize and control their oil. So they sent the United States in there to start a coup and take most of that out of power.
Yeah, so it's, damn, what I was about to say is, damn, I lost my train of thought. I was going to say something. Well, it's sort of the same thing that happened in Venezuela when you had Pat Robertson go in there and say that they should assassinate him. And within a year or so, he turned up dead. But you got to remember, Venezuela has one of the biggest oil reserves on the planet. And they was trying to nationalize, basically, he was trying to take care of a lot of South American nations with their oil and control basically the price of the gallons of the barrels of oil. He turned up dead. And after he turned up dead, the whole country economic system just fell, went into disarray. So, I mean, this is, we know what's happening. Go ahead, Mark.
The same Soustelle was the contact man for the Sendero Luminoso Shining Pathway Guerrilla Group, protecting the committee's Peruvian cocaine producers. Richard Gardner was sent to Rome on a special assignment. Gardner married into one of the oldest black nobility families of Venice, thus providing the Venetian aristocracy a direct line to the White House. The late Averell Harriman was another of the committee's direct links with the Kremlin and the White House, a position inherited by Kissinger after Harriman's death.
Hey, real quick, and I want y'all to know too, that Thomas Enster, he was part of the U.S. government. He was at the head of the Pol Pot killings during what's that, Vietnam? Was it Vietnam? Hold on. Go ahead, because I want to be keep reading. I'll bring it back because I want to be correct. I don't want to be incorrect on anything.
Okay.
I'll come back. Go ahead, bro.
In 1986, in the Order of St. John of Jerusalem, Dr. Coleman wrote, "It is therefore not a secret society, except where its purposes have been perverted in the inner councils, like the Order of the Garter, which is a prostituted oligarchical creation of the British royal family, which makes a mockery of what the Sovereign Order of St. John of Jerusalem stands for. As an example, we find the atheist Lord Peter Carrington, who pretends to be an Anglican Christian, but who is a member of the Order of Osiris and of other demonic sects." Of course, when the name Osiris in it, it's got to be demonic. Including Freemasonry installed as a knight of the Garter at St. George's Chapel, Windsor Castle by Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II of England, of the Black Noble Gulfs, also head of the Anglican Church, which she thoroughly despises. 15.8 billion is one realistic estimate of the Queen's worth, tax exempt. Only the little people pay taxes. Leona Helmsley.
Yeah, so hold on, let's go back up because I want to speak to. Yes, let me share the screen real fast so I can bring Richie back in. Richie been in a cut week. You there, Richie?
Yeah, I'm here. You got me in the back like my name's Garfield. What's up?
Oh. No, man. No. Garfield cool. Garfield cool. Hold on. I want to find I'm looking for this name because I mentioned something and I want to be correct. Just give me a second. I'm looking for something. Should be right in here. 20. I just see it. Gaining control. I'm looking for Thomas. Okay, here we go. Yeah, the committee, the time of Pol Pot. Committee repopulating cities. Looking for this man's name. Okay, Thomas Enders. Thomas Enders was a high-ranking member in the U.S. State Department, and he was at the head. He was at the head responsible for the massacres in Cambodia. Now, the massacres in Cambodia. What the hell does a man from the United States Department have anything to do with the massacres going on in Cambodia? But that's because all of this stuff is connected, and this is why we try to bring this information. This is why we try to bring this information out to the people. I didn't even see you in here, Great Black Shark. What's going on, man? And this kind of stuff is important that we have because some people will say, "Well, what's the solution? What should we? What are you saying we should do?" And basically, what does all this stuff mean? Well, these people was able to stay in power so much because they're not challenged. See, people in other countries around the world, and poor countries that don't have access to internet like we do, that don't have access to certain things, they talk about fascist groups and they go in on these groups. But in America and in the West and in the UK and stuff like that, we're too distracted. It shouldn't be just black people. It should be poor white people, poor black people, poor brown people. Everybody should be calling these people out. Because there's a certain sets and a small portion of a group of families that control everything and everybody. So what I'm saying is, I look at us as the original people, but I see things past black and white because black and white is a fake ass construct that they created to make me hate everybody. And I'm not on that no more because as the more and more I educate myself, the more and more I see what's happening and what's going on. So the average white dude from Russia that may call me a nigger don't mean nothing to me. Because I know that he's used and abused and being taken advantage of. I got a problem with the people at the top that's creating the think tanks, that's creating the way we think, that's forcing the language we speak, the clothes we wear. Those are the ones that's the dangerous ones that's controlling everything. That white person that called me a nigger don't even realize he's being used as a pawn. So there's bigger things. There's things being done on a bigger scale. Anybody else want to say something? Not at one, all at one time. Where you at, Richard?
Yeah, I'm listening. I'm taking it in. I'll comment when necessary. Now I'm back in. Don't worry.
No, you know what happened, Richie? You know how when you share the screen, when you share the screen, the computer been getting stuck and it knock you out. So once I can't see.
No, I feel you.
Yeah, once you got knocked out.
Don't worry, I feel you, brother. Don't worry. I know my name's not Unc. Get me? So it's all good. Get me? Don't worry, I'm gonna come in when necessary. Listen, the only thing I will say, when you was talking about the Merrill Lynch thing, to all those people that's watched The Matrix, you may remember the French guy that was in it, called the Merrill Lynch, who had all the information and who was very set on making people do things for him. Or he enjoyed watching people do things without knowing why they're doing them. You understand? That was a very big thing. So again, when we're talking about this bloodline, this set of people who like to control people through various means and ways and desires, that's a reflection in that film there with that character. And again, as the brothers already highlighted, it's supposed to be a direct bloodline going all the way back to Christ. That's it.
Y'all gonna put an article back up? Or
you want me to put it back up?
I mean, I was just saying if you was cognizant, if you knew.
Yeah,
you didn't have it up.
It may knock me out.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, you ain't gotta put it up. I just was asking.
Yeah, because that's
maybe you didn't know it wasn't up.
I ain't putting it back up because it's already acting stupid now. It's freezing up now. Oh man. Yeah, froze me up. Can y'all hear me?
We hear you.
Yeah, we can still hear you.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait and see what happens because it's actually spinning. Yeah, I got another part two to this part. But this
Marvin got it, so you got it, right, Marvin?
The article, yeah.
Yeah, he can just keep on reading then, I guess.
No, it's done. It's done.
That was
oh, y'all done? Oh, okay.
Hold on, I'm gonna have to go out and come back in because my joint is acting crazy. Yeah.
Hold up, what was the last hold on, get the last line that they said on that joint. Only the little people pay taxes.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yep.
Okay. Oh yeah. I that was the end right there.
that was the last line. Yep. Right after they say 15.8 billion people is one realistic estimate of the Queen's worth, tax exempt.
Right.
Said only the little people pay taxes, quote unquote.
I don't. You man might be aware of the movement Freemen on the Land. It's definitely over here in the UK and across Europe, but it's a group of people that basically operate or want to operate under the same laws that the Queen and the royal family and others do, where no passports needed, you don't pay taxes to be on the land, you don't pay for your car insurance, you don't need a passport. These are the things that come under those laws that the Queen adheres to and other royals and certain dignitaries in society.
The sovereignty thing that a lot of people was doing.
That's right.
In the early the mid 1990s and up to like 2005. What was funny was I saw a stream yesterday with I guess that's Inky and his these guys called the Urban Conservatives was on his page, and they were doing a lot of history of political stuff. Now, of course, they're elected officials in a lot of heavily rich white counties. So that's their, and they come from the streets. So they have a way of being able to explain to people how political power works. Now, of course, we have tons of knowledge as enlightened people where a lot of people were trying to tell them about how, how we're really feeling in society, but they were taking how they were feeling as truth. Like, it's racist. They don't want us to have this and have that. While in the meantime, all they were saying was the letters of the law dictate you have the power to assimilate as a people and do something about the powers that be. Like, for instance, the only reason there's an elected official in the United States is because of the people. So if the people, due to whatever measures used, people having their psychology screwed over generation after generation, them being, laws being passed to educate a certain way, regardless of what it is, those who are in power are because majority of people voted to place those people in power. So he's saying that if you use the same cycles they use, if you have, maybe you live in a county of 5,000 people, if you can assimilate a large enough group of people to divide the vote in your favor, now you hold a position of power. And you have the ability to supply certain resources to your neighborhood to build it up. So they kind of come from that perspective. So it's not so much about creating the argument about, oh, did the Republicans become Democrat and all that? Because they spent so much time debunking stuff. Even I had to side with the brothers. Like, look, they clearly know their stuff. They literally took their entire life and studied this stuff.
I ain't gonna lie, bro, Marv. I don't side with them.
No, you were there. You were there with me. What it is they can't explain it from our point of. I know this for a fact. They can't explain it from our point of view, so they use direct letter teaching and say follow that track.
What those brothers is, they can break certain things down, but they overlook the overall picture. So for me.
But that's what I know about them. They don't overlook it. They can't go down that road. They physically can't.
And see, soul of mine said something to me. He might not remember last week, but he said, George, some of the stuff that we talk about, these people know, but they're afraid to talk about it. They're afraid to lose, not being included in certain places, or afraid of things that can happen to them. So a lot of times you'll hear people like what we're talking about right now. You've heard like high-ranking members like of the Nation of Islam. Some Hebrew Israelite camps might go in and talk about it. Certain groups, certain ministers that's not part of the 501(c) may go in. You may be people like Dr. Phil Valentine has talked about this. People like why I always draw blanks when I'm going in. C.L. Franklin, Dr. Delbert Blair, Bobby Hemmett.
You meant C. Freeman L.
I'm talking C.L. Franklin.
I know who you meant. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, C. Freeman L. I stand corrected. Scratch that from me. C. Freeman L. have talked about this. And like different Moors, that's why I was surprised when, no disrespect to Brother Abner, Lord Abner. I was surprised when Lord Abner had said that he had never heard of it, because I know that Moorish doctrine, they talk about this, especially when you're dealing with the secret treaties of Aaron and the different treaties. But what I'm noticing is a lot of people don't want to get into this conversation for a lot of different reasons. And I used to get upset, like, man, why won't they go into this? Why won't they go into this? And a lot of people just don't want to touch these conversations. And then you'll hear people say, man, you better be careful when you're talking like that. And once I hear that, that lets me know that, okay, well, if I got to be careful when I'm talking about this, this gives validity.
Yeah.
To what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Some people have to be in our position and some people have to be in their position. Our job is to hopefully know when to recognize each other. Like, I'm not a fan of what, remember everyone's up in arms when it comes to Oprah and all these people of power, right? Me, I don't really have, I got my reserved personal point of view about how they act, but at the same time, I also have to say, I'm not in their position. They may be in a position waiting for us, and we're in a position waiting for them. But the truth of the matter is only two things can rule the world: people or money. If the money is talking louder than the people because the people are divided, then money is going to be what people chase. But if the people start coming together, people will always look to connect the people. That's why it's important for the enlightened people to come together first. And then those who are scared to stand up will feel like they now have a way in. Like, you know what? These brothers got the heart. So I might not have the heart to lead that kind of group, but because they exist, I can get down with them. So now I'll become a part of the greater number. They'll be in the background, not willing to talk in front of certain people, but they'll check the voters balance for you. They'll donate money to your causes and not put their name on it. They'll send checks and letters and all that. So the question is, who's waiting for who? Hopefully,
because see, the problem is some of them are running interference to try to shut us down and make us look like we're incorrect. That's the sad.
And that's the catch. And that's the part where, in order for us to get anywhere, we're stuck having to you have to play the trust game. There's really no getting around it.
Hey,
Like you have to.
somebody look at this, Marvin. Brother BX Express said you got to be careful with the people that say you got to be careful.
Yeah, real quick, guys, I gotta step out. So shout out to the panel.
Yeah,
Shout out to the panel, and hopefully we could build some more
we got
on
more.
the information. All right.
Solar Mine, I remember you was telling me that they
I
was
think so.
restocking the Kellogg's and the Post, so I know you got head on. No,
Go ahead.
Solo.
Yeah, he just brother Richie, close us out, brother, because we about to close out. We 2 hours in now. We're gonna close out. We're gonna be back tomorrow with a part 2, and then brother Marvin, we're gonna come? I think probably Monday or Tuesday, because I don't know if we're gonna be able to do anything over the weekend. But because I don't know what brother Marvin can. But over the weekend, brother Marvin and Silvermine's gonna have a health thing talking about the coronavirus. They're gonna lead the stream. I'm gonna fall back, and they're gonna control the stream on that.
So make sure y'all follow Solar Mind and follow me. You don't follow me under the name you see right here. Follow me under Marvin Health and Arts. That's where I talk about the art stuff. This channel here, the channel that I'm using right now under George, is usually for photography based stuff. So you got to make sure you follow under Marvin Health and Arts, and I'll retype it again in the chat so that you guys have it.
Yeah, so when we come back, because if we come on a Monday on the stream, I'll be out and we watch it from the stream. Marvin will be controlling the George Making channel. I'll be sitting in the back chilling.
Yeah, we can come over. We can come on here and we can throw around some information about corona, because there's tons of structured streams about coronavirus. If y'all guys want, we'll come on George's channel and let's just talk some trash, and I'll throw some concepts out for you guys to learn about coronavirus, and you guys can ask some questions. I know y'all gonna want to throw out your own information in the chat. It always happens. That's fine. But let's come in and talk some trash about the coronavirus and the things surrounding it, and maybe we'll come up with some solutions and things we can do in our own neighborhoods regarding it.
All right, let's go, because I gotta leave too. I gotta go right now.
Yep. Go ahead,
brother. Richie, bring us on, Richie.
Yeah, like big up to everybody in the chat room that's been listening. Remember, today's show has just been about laying out the bloodlines in a chronological order once again, so everybody can clearly see the root of behavior and who's doing it from what time to what. And the reason why this information is never popular is because when you start to keep it on a chronological order, you see your fundamental institutions, whether it's the Christianities, the Islams, the businesses, the companies, the presidents, the prime ministers, the queens, the kings, as they run into one another, they all support one another with the bullshit that we're exposing. And that's where it becomes problematic, because there's a lot of, again, we're taught that these are positive times, these are positive aspects of society, but again, when you examine it in full and break it down in as I said, a chronological order, you start to understand the chain of events that's gone on to construct this very deep and complex lie that we find ourselves in. Yeah, so other than that, big up to everybody who came in and listened as always. Yeah, we'll be back again shortly.
Okay.
Subscribe to me, Black Eyes TV 7. Yeah, don't forget.
Yeah.
Big up.
Subscribe to Black Eyes TV 7 also as well. The link to the article that we just read is in the chat room, and I want everybody to understand that link is connected to that. Now you know what? Let me do this. Let me put the British Deep State link in there too, so that way it can be put together. This is
you put the committee 300 one.
Yeah, that's what I'm putting in now. The committee 300 British Deep State is going in this damn computer, man. And I gotta get out of here.
And for those who don't know, George Macon called into Sarnetta's show yesterday and laid down some information on Garfield and a few other brothers and dealt with it and made a good showing of it. So if you haven't seen it, go and check it out and understand what's really good when these people come up against clean facts and a sure footing. Yeah, see how they got blown up, Garfield.
Don't say that, man, because
I'm gonna keep it real. This is what I'm saying. When there's no argument and there's no foolishness, and it's just a dialogue, a clean dialogue between two brothers, this is where we can start to see true positions, and it's not a personalized thing.
Right.
You know, I don't need to call Garfield any names. I just need to make everybody understand that when he was confronted with good points, he had nothing to say.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
That's all.
I'm being modest, record George, man. Yeah, but remember, I love my people more than hate themselves, and I pray to the universal creator Most High that these words is enough to inspire you. These words are enough to make you look at yourself in the mirror and make change. These words are enough to make you look at your children and know you have to make change. I hope that when you came here for information, and when you leave here greater than what you was before you came. You leave here edified. I hope that you share this information with your family, with your friends, your cousins. We locked in the house. Put it on Twitter, put this on Facebook. I don't care. You can take this video, put it everywhere. I won't strike you. Put it on your channels. It doesn't matter to me, because it's not about the money for me. It's about the information. So share this information. Peace to King Sirs. Always, Brother Moses. Next time, have your ass up here. You know you part of the brotherhood. Asiatic black man. And remember, man, to the next time, I love y'all. Peace. I gotta go.